Hello and welcome back to Rev Real Estate School. I'm your host, Michael Montgomery, and I'm joined by Luke Acree today. Luke, how are you doing?
Doing fantastic, Michael. Thank you for having me.
So excited to have you on the show. And for anybody who hasn't met Luke, he's definitely made a name for himself when it comes to database marketing in the real estate space. He has done a lot when it comes to leadership, lead generation. He's helped over 100,000 entrepreneurs through his platform called Reminder Media. So that may actually ring a bell for some of us who have heard of Reminder Media. And we're really excited to chat with you today, Luke, all about this concept, lead generation with a focus in particular on our database.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm excited to talk about it. I could literally talk all day about database marketing. So depending on where you want to go, I'm an open book. Ask me any question you want.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, well, let's start from ground zero. And let's say you're meeting with a real estate agent and they say, look, I need to start to think through a marketing strategy when it comes to my database. What are some of the first suggestions that you would have for a real estate agent when they're starting to think through this concept of marketing and database, and also through the lens, I would say, of not wanting to maybe annoy them? We can maybe go down that path, but maybe right off the bat, what are some initial suggestions you have for somebody?
Yeah, so if you are just getting into database marketing, I mean, the first standard I say is, hey, you got to build your list. Actually, believe it or not, with Reminder Media, the biggest pain point we've ever faced as a company is we would sign up 100 real estate agents to do our program of sending out Touchpoints, but only like 62 in the early years would actually end up going through. And I've put in so much effort. Now we have it up to like 91 out of every 100. But the reason why, when I looked into it, is they don't spend the time to build their list. And it seems like a simple concept of actually taking down the info of the first, last name, address, email address, everything you can, but most people don't. So I would encourage you, build your list. There's some, hacks you can do. Like if you've had a wedding in the family recently, there was probably an invitation that was sent out to a list. Go grab that list, right? Because, high school graduations, life events, there's a lot of times people have put together a list of people, but you got to build your list as a database. And then the key is, like, if you're just getting into business, you don't have a lot of money. So, okay, how do I get in front of them in a way that is non-salesy, professional, and also gives value? And right now, social media is an easy way to try to get in front of your list. So what does that mean? When you develop that list, you put it into a CRM, you go see if you can friend those people on Instagram or Facebook. Friend them, follow them. You want that connection with your list. Then also think about, okay, you're going to start posting. We could talk about posting, all that stuff. Think about your intro to everybody on your database of you got into real estate. So my brother is a top 1% real estate agent, has a team, about 14 agents down in Lynchburg, Virginia, crushing it. One thing we make all of his new agents do, when they first join his team, they build the list, and then we have a script where they literally call their database, and they get a little cop-out because they have him as a team lead. But hey, I just got into real estate, want to let you know, appreciate our relationship. Hey, my team leader, Steven, he's asking me to reach out to everybody in my sphere and just offer, hey, who can I help? Do you have a friend or even yourself that I could help with real estate today? Who do you know? And you would be surprised being that direct in your intro versus trying to almost be like dancing around the point of, hey, I got into real estate. If you need it, actually being straight, direct. Hey, do you know anybody today, Michael, that I could help that's a friend of yours? My team leader wanted me to reach out to everybody in my sphere to make sure they knew I was here to be a resource. They are always getting 1 to 2 referrals on their first call throughs to their sphere doing that script. So that's just, I'm a little long-winded, but that's just one point I would say right out of the gate.
That's super encouraging. A couple of follow-up questions for that. Let's maybe start with building the list, and then I want to get into this script because I think this script is super important, and one that any agent hearing this who hasn't done that may also feel a little uncomfortable with that approach. So I'd love to chat more about that. But when we think about building the list, agent may say to you, okay, I can think on, I can go through my phone potentially and find 20, 30 people. Other than the wedding strategy, like who should be on that list and who shouldn't? Like, let's say I haven't connected with this person in 4 years or something. Do you have I know there's probably no science to this, but is there a general cutoff point where you say this person belongs there, this person may not?
I think that's a great point. I would say no, everybody should be on your list, but then you get into, when you get deeper into marketing, it's called segmentation of list. So everybody that goes on your list isn't going to be what we call an A person, right? right on your list, a key client or something like that. When you start in the business, you don't have any clients, but if you think about it from a basic level, who should be on your list? Friends and family should be on your list. After friends and family, I have what you call as your sphere. So sphere would be people that you have an acquaintance with, but maybe you don't really know them as a friend or a family. Then you have the obvious when you're in the business, current clients, past clients, and prospects. Those should all be on your list. And the way I think about it is, okay, I first go to my friends and family. That's my core. Then I look at, okay, where am I involved? So a perfect for me. So I grew up the son of a pastor, right? So super involved. I still am involved in my church and stuff like that, but that's a natural sphere. I don't have a great relationship there. I don't consider everybody at my church a friend and a family member from that deep perspective, but they could be on my list from a sphere perspective. And then I would segment them when I get them into my system. And I'm probably going to make the calls to my friends and family first to see how that goes before I translate down.
Got it. That makes perfect sense. So you're more of like, let's cast a wider net here. Let's get the most number of people in there, and then let's segment from there. Let's not spend 20 minutes worrying if Joe should be on the list or not. Put Joe on the list, and then we'll segment from there as time goes on.
Exactly. And then Joe responding or not responding to your marketing over time will dictate to you whether or not you keep him on the list. Yep. Meaning, like, if you do email marketing, it's very cost effective. It's very cheap, for lack of a better way of saying it. And you can hit thousands of people, and it doesn't bother you to have Joe on the list. But if you're sending our custom magazine, you're not going to want to send it to Joe, who you haven't talked to in 4 years, because it's too expensive. So that's also going to dictate kind of how you segment your list as well, the response to your market.
That makes perfect sense. Now going through the list, we're starting to build the list. Somebody's on the list. You got a name. Maybe you have a phone number and you don't have an email address, or you have an email address and you don't have a phone number. How do you coach the agent through that?
Yeah. So you obviously want to get it all if you can. So it just depends what you have. So I'll give you an example. If there's an agent I'm coaching right now, her name's Andrea, but she goes by Ange. And so Ange obviously has a very small sphere, just getting into the business. I think we had like 23 people that were her sphere and friends on her list. But I went to her Facebook page and I said, Ange, you have like 900 people here that are friends with you on your Facebook page. So what I want you to do is I want you to get on your Facebook and every day reach out to maybe 10, 15 of them through a DM or a comment. Comment on one of the things that they've done, or DM them a message. And because you haven't talked to these people in a while, don't be sly. Be straight up. Man, Michael, we haven't caught up in a while. How have things been going for you? I can't believe it's been X amount of time since we last chatted. I just saw, on your wall that you guys went on vacation, or I just saw on your wall that this was happening. How's life been going? And you catch up, because when you say things like, how's your life been going, or how's your work been going, natural human psychology is reciprocity. So they want to ask you back, things have been going great, Ange. How's your life been going? Oh, it's been great. The kids are great. I actually just got into real estate. And then that transfers the convo naturally to where now you've brought up your work because they've, you asked them first and they're going to ask you back. And then the key there is just going, hey, I love building relationships. My whole life now is just building relationships through my business, helping people. I'd love to be a resource for you. I don't have your up-to-date email. Michael, do you mind sending me your up-to-date email? Because I'd love to keep in touch with you that way. And I'll put you actually on my list. That way, anything that I find in the market that I think is relevant to you, I'll send it to you. And most of the time, people don't go, no, don't do that. Mm-hmm. Don't keep me up to date. No, don't give me things. Like, people don't normally do that if you present it in a value-driven way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just a lot of it is mindset too when you're approaching it. If you're approaching it with this mindset that, oh, they're going to hate me, they're not going to want to hear from me. If you approach it coming from a place of, these people very likely do want it. Like, we're living in what a lot of people call a loneliness epidemic right now, having more human connection. The other thing that I think is really powerful that you said is, my life now is building relationships. That was one little line that you had said there. And I mean, if that was a topic, if that was a concept that agents would internalize and then actually live by that, holy smokes, their business would transform.
Oh, it'd be amazing. And I think just to put a nail on the last point of, I think why people struggle making those calls and doing those DMs is because they think they're trying to close something. Yeah. They think they're trying to get a deal done or get a lead or something like that. Almost remove that pressure from you. And be super transparent. You're not trying to manipulate the conversation. You can literally tell somebody, I just got into real estate and I would love to be a real estate agent. And when you are that direct with people and you don't dance around the point, people appreciate it because it's real. And if you think about what relationships are built off of, they're built off of real connection, not, fake connection, not like I feel like you're trying to sell something to me right now. It's just, no, it's just straight to the point and real. And that's what makes the best salespeople is the ones who are direct.
And so refreshing too, being on the receiving end. Like I'm just putting myself in the shoes of somebody who's receiving a call from Luke. And isn't it so much more refreshing to hear it directly than it is to kind of feel like you're being backed into a corner and you're going to ask for something down the road? That leads to, I think, a much worse outcome than you just calling and saying what you're calling for and being open. But you also have a high level of enthusiasm in your voice as you're doing this. And I think agents can probably learn a lot about that too. Being excited about our careers, being excited about talking to this person, and then just, we talk about this quite a bit, inputs over outcomes. So it's not necessarily about what happens, what the outcome of the call is. It's about the input of just making the call in the first place.
Yeah, it's so well said. I think LinkedIn is a perfect example for people of where people make the mistake all the time. They come in all soft and like, I just want to have a connection with you. And then literally one message later, it's selling me something. And I'm just like, yeah, you are better off selling me something from the beginning because now you're inauthentic. And now I don't really have a desire to connect. And I think that's where most people fall down.
Totally appreciate that side of things. Absolutely. Okay. So if an agent, let's say that they're bought into this and they say, okay, I do need to call everybody on my list, let them know that I'm in real estate, or even if I've been in real estate for a while and I haven't done that, and so I still want to call my database, maybe I've been in for 5 years and want to remind them, but they get this limiting belief or this thought in their mind that says, this person doesn't want to hear from me, or this person is going to tell me to beat it. How do you kind of help an agent through that line of thinking?
I tell them, get over it. No.
Well, I'm looking at, for anyone who's listening to the podcast, or of course this is on YouTube as well, and looking behind you, Luke, I think that says it all.
Yeah, the take action sign. If you're watching the YouTube video, I have a big take action sign. Look, top producers have a massive bias towards action. Top producers have an obliviousness about them that I don't know if it's true obliviousness, but it's true. I don't care. And here's what I've always found, as corny as this might sound, it's that, look, if the embarrassment and the fear of rejection is greater than the why and purpose of why you're doing what you're doing, you won't make the calls, you won't send the emails, you won't make the piece of content. And it's like, who was it? Man, some motivational speaker, I want to give him credit, but they said your goal's got to be like oxygen. Eric Thomas, that's who it is. Eric Thomas has this amazing clip on YouTube. It's like, look, your goal's got to be like oxygen. And the whole point of that is going, look, if you couldn't breathe right now, wouldn't you do anything to breathe? You wouldn't mind looking embarrassed. You wouldn't mind pushing people. You wouldn't mind calling anybody. You would do it because you were so desperate to breathe. Your goals have to be like oxygen. They have to be where you are willing to film that piece of content, make that phone call. And that only comes from if you actually truly understand your value. And I was talking to my brother about this, especially in the whole context now of the NAR lawsuit, right, that is coming down the pipe and all the panic and turmoil in the industry. It's like, look, agents need to understand the value that they bring to the table. Like in context of the NAR lawsuit, here's what I know about consumers. Consumers before the lawsuit wanted good advice and good representation. And if you gave good advice and good representation, they were willing to pay for it. Consumers after the lawsuit want good advice and good representation. And if you give good advice and good representation, they're willing to pay for it. Meaning if you have value, then you shouldn't fear at all going after that lead. Where most people fail, I call it the buyer's journey acronym. There's this acronym called CAR. Curiosity, annoyance, almost you could go to 2 R's, resentment and then respect. But let's just go curiosity, annoyance, respect. When you first reach out to somebody, they're curious. Why are you calling me? What is this all about? That's where they're at psychologically. Like you get a phone call and you don't recognize the number. You're like, who is this? Why is this? Then if they keep reaching out to you, you maybe are annoyed if they're trying to sell you something. You're maybe annoyed, but here's the reality. Most salespeople give up then. Most salespeople, they post 1 piece of content, 2 pieces of content, and they are bad pieces of content. And it was just annoying if you stop. But if you keep going, if you keep making the phone calls, if you keep putting out the podcasts, if you keep putting out the content, you're going to refine it. You're going to get good. And on the sales side, the phone side, people are going to come to respect you. The amount of deals I've closed from people that first they were like, no, but I kept showing up, showing my value. At the end, they're going, Luke, I just have to commend you. I love your follow-up so much. I love your passion for what you do. I just have such respect. I wish you could teach my team to do that. And it's like you have to commit to realizing most agents are mediocre and they give up at the annoyance phase and they prove the point that they were annoying. But if you keep going and you push through annoyance, you'll get to respect.
That's amazing. And that's really where the magic happens. My mind's going to, I think it's a Sam Altman quote where he says, you know, if you're going to start any business, the people that are successful are the ones that are willing to look foolish. If you are willing to look foolish, but the funny thing about it is you don't actually look foolish. The more that you do it, we're just in our own heads, and we tend to analyze the way that other people are looking at our post, when in fact they're just scrolling and moving on to the next one. They're not zeroing in on your post and then looking at it and then judging you and then writing something down like, oh man, I got to tell Luke how bad his post. That does not happen. They just scroll to the next one.
It's was it Lou Holtz? 90% of the people aren't worried about what you look like or what you're feeling because they're thinking about what they look like and what they're feeling. Yeah. The other 10%, they're glad you look that way, and you don't want them as clients anyways.
Exactly. It's a win-win. It's a win-win. Okay, well, this is really good. Now, agent has their database. They got their list together, and they've made their calls. Now, when we're thinking through, we will think through, I think, kind of annually how we stay in touch with these folks. But let's now shift gears more towards social and what agents should be doing when it comes to social. I know you're hugely bought into using social by way of trying to continue to connect with our database. What are some suggestions that you have for agents that are struggling with social media consistency?
So I think what happens to people, two things. One is you don't have a lot of time, and two is that you are trying to create content versus just document content. And that was a Gary Vee thing that he stated many, many years ago. When it comes to content, I try to make people, I break it down this way. I give people the 3 E's of content: education, entertainment, endearment. I always say 50 to 60% of what you're doing is probably going to be educational content. And the reason why you do that is because you want to be the SME of your industry, the subject matter expert. You need to understand that people buy from people they look up to, meaning they believe you know more than them, not people they look at as I know as much as you or look down upon. Oh, I know more about real estate than you do. They need to think they know more than, or you know more than them. So how do you showcase that? One way to do that is through educational content. So this can be things like market reports. It can be things like, here's what you do to renovate your home to add 10%. It can be things like, here's what's happening with the mortgage rates. It's very educational based. But if you just do education, which is where most agents stop, is they just post educational stuff, just listings, just solds, market reports, people tune you out. So you have to have entertaining content and endearing content. Entertaining content would be things like, we have an email that we do for clients. It's local events. And so we curate the local community events that are happening in their area. We create an email newsletter of them, brand it to the agent. Has nothing to do with real estate, all to do what's happening. I'm based out of Philly. So it's like, here's what's happening in Philly the next 2 weeks. Because it's local, because it has nothing to do with real estate, but it's all value driven to the consumer, our open rates are massive on those. People engage with the content. And here's where our agents take it to the next level. They take a passive piece of marketing and they turn it to a proactive outreach. So they'll go, hey, I'm going to be at the Philly Cheesesteak Festival. Let me know if you're going to be there. Or they'll use it as a reason to touch base. Hey, Michael, was thinking about you today, brother. Hey, I'm going to be at the Philly Cheesesteak Festival. I don't know if you got my email of all the events going on in Philly, but if you guys are looking for something to do on Saturday, I'd love to connect there. And they use it as a way to engage their client. So entertaining content can be things like local events, recipes, can be things that are going on in the community or things that you're into. Endearing content, this is where I think there's a huge opportunity here that I would give to people, which is, how do you give back to the community that you live in? And all of you should have a charity that you are a part of or that you are giving back to. So that could be Boys and Girls Club, SPCA, Little League, the local school, a church that you're involved in. My brother, one of his best campaigns every year on social and through postcard mailing is he partners with the Agape House in Lynchburg, Virginia. And what we do is we do a food drive for the Agape House, and he sends out a postcard to his 750 Sphere and his 4,000 farm. He posts about it on social. We're raising awareness. We're collecting canned goods. So he gets a nice touch point going to the community, raising awareness for something local that's good. In marketing, there's this thing called the halo effect. The halo effect basically states, when Michael sees me doing something good, he associates that good with everything else I do. So if he sees me giving back to the community, he sees that as how I treat my clients or how I run my business. So don't do charity just for the halo effect, but it's a great, great point that I give to people. And here's the magic. The magic is you get a touch point on your social by posting about an endearing campaign. Hey, I'm giving back to the Agape House. I would love to collect canned goods. Now you get a physical touch point as well. So all of a sudden you've doubled your touch points. How do you do that? You can pick up the phone. You can call the people and say, I'm going to be in the neighborhood on Saturday. I would love to stop by and pick up any canned goods that you have that you would want to donate. So you get a phone call there. You get a now pop by, if you're a Brian Buffini fan, you get a pop by their home, collect the canned goods. After you collect them all, guess what you get to do? You get to take all the food, take a picture of you and your team and all the food with the founders of that charity. And now you get to send out another postcard to the community as a big thank you. We were able to raise this much food for the Agape House. Thank you for giving back to the community. So all of a sudden you've taken one piece of content, one campaign that you're trying to do, turned it into 4 touch points for your database on both social and print. And it's an endearing touch point, so it's non-salesy. It's not promoting Steven's real estate business, even though it is. He's there, his logo's there, his team's there, but it's all about giving back. And guess what? People do business with what? People they know, like, and trust. How do you get into the like and trust category? They have to respect you, and they have to feel like they have commonality with you on values.
That makes perfect sense. And so when you're thinking through this, about 60% you said is educational. And then as far as entertainment and endearing goes, do you have any sort of structure on how you break that up, or is it just the remaining 40% should fall into those buckets?
People, most is going to be entertaining because there's only so much so much people want to do from the charity side. So usually I say 5 to 10% is going to be the endearing content, and the rest is going to be more entertaining type content that you're putting out there. And then the way to think about it is like sit down and look at your campaign and go. What I tell people is how many touch points should you send a year to your database? The answer is more. The answer is more, more. Meaning if you're doing 11 right now, do 12. If you're doing 100, do 101. I say that with such conviction. I have so many clients. I have a client outside the industry that I give as an example a lot, Brian Harris. He manages like $1.2, $1.4 billion in finance money. So he's top 1% in the financial world. He does 275 touch points a year to his database. 275 touch points a year. Most people think, wow, that seems like overkill. Think about it in terms of relationship. If you think about your wife, your husband, significant other, how many touch points do you have with them? I think of my wife, Megan. I have thousands over the course of a year, right? I'm seeing her every morning, every evening. I'm texting her. I'm calling her throughout the day. Like my closest relationship has thousands and thousands of touch points. So if you think about that in terms of your sphere, well, you don't want them to be like your wife or husband, but you want them to have a relationship with you. So if you're scared of doing too many touch points, you have the wrong mindset. I say bare minimum, you should have 26 touch points. Every 2 weeks, you are in front of your client. The key, though, is that you want to be on different frequencies. So I do this talk often called the frequency factor. And the frequency factor is about how many touch points and then also channel of touch points. So most people, where they fail is they're not on enough channels. There's really 6 frequencies you can be on. Direct mail, so the mailbox, the inbox, right, for email, social media, face-to-face, voice-to-voice, and screen-to-screen. So those are 6 mediums of touch points that you should have. So if you're an agent listening to this, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a ton of information. I'll just summarize it this way. Get yourself to having 26 touch points to your database a year. So 1 every 2 weeks. Spread those 26 out over multiple frequencies. So maybe you have 1 email newsletter. So that's 12, 1 email newsletter a month going out. Then you have maybe a quarterly phone call. So you have 4 touch points happening there, right? For a quarterly phone call. Then you add in, maybe you do our magazine quarterly and you have 4 magazines going out. You'll very quickly get up to 26 touch points through multiple frequencies. And the effect psychologically will be Luke is always there, but he's never overbearing. And then have you heard of this thing called the frequency illusion?
No.
Oh, dude. So do you know Jason Pantana? Okay, so Jason Pantana turned me on to this when I was networking, talking to him. So I was always talking about these frequencies and stuff. He goes, hey, man, it's the frequency illusion is why it works so well in omni-channel marketing. So what the frequency illusion is, and to give people a comparison, everybody has the experience where they want to buy a car and they start seeing the car everywhere. And we all know that's because it became important to you. It registered in your RAS system in your brain. So now your brain is focused on it and you start seeing it. It's not like those cars weren't there. You just never saw them because they weren't important. Well, the frequency illusion is a similar phenomenon. And basically what it states is if a person sees you on 2 or more frequencies, and the more the better, their brain makes them think they see you more than they do. So if you see me on social today, and then you go home tonight and you get my magazine in the mail, you're going to think you see Luke Acree more than you do. And why is that important? Look at NAR's last stats. 81% of sellers chose the first agent they interviewed. So if you're not first, you're last. So every little thing you can do for your database to become first in their mind, so they think of you and they call you or text you versus the competition, that puts you above the other agents. So what I tell people is 26 touch points spread over at least 2 or more frequencies. And then when you think of your 26, 50 to 60% is education. You have maybe 30% being entertaining content, and then the last 10 being endearing content. And there you go.
Amazing. And I just got to say, I love that you fit in a Ricky Bobby quote into that, statement as well. But yeah, exactly. Okay. But this is fantastic. And you know where my mind's going as we're starting to think through 26 touch point. And I know you'll probably squash this right off the bat. It seems like, okay, maybe let's say I agree to the 26 touch points, but I'm not going to be able to get on the phone that frequently. Now, you already said you have 12 email newsletters, super scalable, quite straightforward to do. What are some other more scalable approaches outside of maybe phone calls and text messages, which are very, very high leverage, have a big impact? What do you think when you're starting to help somebody who has a database of 500, 600, and they're thinking, how do I scale my touch point?
Yeah, a great question. So I look at it through the lens of the 6 frequencies, but if I was crafting for you like a touch point plan that I've done for my brother, right? So he has, his magazine go out, which is every 2 months he's hitting his sphere with his printed magazine. So that's something we do for clients. We're not the only company that does printed magazines, but you could do that with a postcard. If you didn't want to spend the amount of money on a magazine, you could do it with a postcard. That's very scalable. It ultimately is very cost effective when you do the math of referrals you get and how it translates to deals. So you can scale up doing a printed piece on demand. You can scale up doing an email. You can easily scale up. There's text automation out there that you can send automated text if you wanted to. But I would tell you, in this business, your most important thing is your prospecting every single day. If you talk to top producers and you ask them what should you be doing every single day, go to Tom Ferry's a story. He just was doing a Q&A with Byron Lazine. So I'm now friends with Byron Lazine and what he's doing over there at BAM. Byron, top, I think, team in Connecticut. And he said, what is the number one thing you need to do if you want to get 50 listings a year? 2 to 3 hours of prospecting a day. Well, that prospecting doesn't have to be cold calling leads. Exactly. It can be literally texting your sphere. It can be picking up the phone and calling your sphere. It could be doing a pop by. So I would tell you that I'm looking at it and I go, okay, Steven has 6 magazines going out. He has a monthly email newsletter going out. He has a bi-weekly local events newsletter going out. So one is more geared towards his business. One is more geared towards entertainment. But here's one that takes a little bit more effort. But we've done like 544 episodes of our podcast, Stay Paid, the last 2 years, in asking people what is generating the most referrals and most business for them. This has come out number 1. So I would encourage people to do this strategy to get leads. Client events. I don't know. Have you heard that, Michael, on your show? People talking about client events?
Well, we advocate for them quite heavily. And I actually haven't had an agent who's done client events and has said they don't work. You know what I mean? Well, the only thing that I've found is agents don't want to do them. But when any agent does them, they always look back on that and they say, wow, I can't believe I've been missing this like source of gold over the years. Absolutely.
So I'll give you one. My brother just did this again, but he did a pie event. He invited his whole sphere to come get pies on Pie Day, right? So we just had Pie Day. And so he invited his whole sphere, came by, and he had 80-something people stop by that registered to come get a pie. And he captured 17 reviews that day because this is a key strategy I give to people. When you do the client event, have your laptop ready to go for your Google business profile or your Zillow or whatever you want to review on.
That's smart. That's super smart.
Capture a review right there. Have them film it on video so you can post it on your social, so you can use it in your email campaign. So he got reviews, and the pie event, he partnered with his title, with his mortgage, right? He doesn't have to pay for all of this. He gets them to chip in, partners with a local bakery, type idea. So that's one. I have a client, Garrett Maroon. So he has 287 people in his database. He closed 88 deals last year. Guy's a freaking stud, all relationship referral driven, out of Virginia. He's Chesapeake, I believe, is where he's at. Maybe Norfolk. So Chesapeake or Norfolk, but awesome guy. And he's huge on client events and pop buys, but he rents out like this ice cream. And I think he told me it cost him $1,000 or something like that for like a couple hours at this ice cream shop, invited his clients. Though you don't have to do anything crazy. but it can be super simple. But the key is you get a client event and you get to invite people through email, or if you want, send them a postcard if you want it, but through email, cost effective. Then give them a phone call to invite them. Then they show up to the event and you see them there. Then you call after the event and thank them for coming and get feedback. You got 4 touch points.
You got 4 touch points right there. Exactly.
One client event.
Well, and even if they don't show up, you still have it. Like, even if you call them, invite them, and they're unable to come, you're still getting a touch point. Plus, you're probably sharing photos and things like that that have occurred at the event. So it's giving you collateral basically to go out there and continue to stay in touch with these folks.
Garrett Maroon, one of the other events he does, which is really cost effective, he does family photos for everybody in his sphere. So he gets a park, that's free. He gets a college student that's a photographer building their portfolio, costs a couple $100. He buys donuts and coffee, and he invites everybody to the park to get family photos done. And in the A clients, he prints out the photos and frames it for the A client. The other people just get digital. Right. That's
a great idea. And, usually where I find agents get blocked when it comes to events, they also get concerned about this concept. I'm going to invite let's say it's a smaller database. Let's say it's 50 people and nobody is going to show up. But I've had that fear too. When I started to do events, I had that fear too. It never transpired. I always had more people than I was anticipating. But the 2 events that you've brought up, both the ice cream and then also the photo event and then the pie event, these almost feel like events where people are coming, getting something, having a 5-10 minute conversation with you, and then bouncing. So it's not like you have to sit there and do an 8-hour event and keep people entertained for that period of time. They're coming and they're going, and that also gives you an opportunity, I think, to have conversations with everybody. Everybody come at 7 p.m. and you don't get around to talk to everybody.
Well said. Spot on.
Really, really cool. Okay. So 26 is a really good starting place that you're saying here between events. And then when we're talking about social, is there a certain number of posts that you're suggesting to people, or is it again kind of this concept of more?
What's funny is the algorithm changes all the time. So I would have told you more, but I feel like recently Instagram and Facebook and everybody is shifting more. Maybe not TikTok, but the rest of them are shifting more towards higher quality and less frequent, because obviously they are seeing their platform get inundated. And they want people on the platform, so they want good content. So they are trying to favor good content. So I would have told you more. I think if I'm thinking through a small business lens for myself or the agents that I coach, I go, look, you need to post enough to be known and enough to show professionalism. So take your Facebook business page. Most people listening to this probably have no engagement on their Facebook business page. And I would tell you that's not your fault, because Facebook's business page, they do not show in the algorithm it's such a small percentage. So what's the point of a Facebook business page? It's literally a digital business card. So when the people Google you and they find your business page, it needs to look professional. It needs to look up to date. It needs to show that you didn't just post 3 months ago. You're posting consistently, but I wouldn't worry too much about the engagement you get on a Facebook business page. On Instagram specifically, the content you post, I would post or try to post at least 3 times a week on your actual feed. If you could do daily, that's awesome. But I would focus even more on documenting your journey through story is where I would focus. And then even more, and everything I do, I know comes back to conversations, but it's just where I see the success. How do you have actual interaction and engagement through Instagram? So every time you get on Instagram, challenge yourself this. If you're posting or if you're viewing, engage. Social was made to be social, engage. So that's what? Commenting on somebody else's post. Liking is okay. Commenting is way better. DMing is awesome. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at someone's story and you can swipe up and DM them a certain message, or you can comment, people are posting and they think the same thing you're thinking. They post and they want people to like what they post. Totally. So you can be a champion for them, and it's reciprocity. So they'll be way more likely to engage with you, let alone it actually influences the algorithm. Number one thing it looks for on Instagram and Facebook is engagement. Saves, comment, and shares.
What's interesting about this too is where my mind's going as well is so an agent's sitting there and they're like, I got a DM Luke, really cool post. He just went to Mexico or something like that. Really good opportunity. But I don't know what to say. I don't know how to actually structure a DM to him. I don't think I've ever received a DM except for super spammy ones that come in all the time that I have been upset about in any way, shape, or form. If somebody sends me a DM, actually, I got one today from an agent, and he heard on the show that I went to Kentucky for New Year's Eve, and he sent me a DM, and he's like, "I'm from Kentucky, really great music there," and it was this really nice little DM, and like it just completely warmed my heart. It just made my day, and he just wanted to comment on the fact that he's from an area that I mentioned that I went to, and I'm like, that is such a nice DM. And so many times we just let our minds stop us. And the person actually wants to hear from you. They really want to hear from you. Same thing when we're texting and calling people. 9 times out of 10, they want to hear from you.
If you read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is a really famous, popular book, people love the sound of their name, but they also love compliments. Now, you want sincere compliments, but I will tell you, even myself, when someone messages me or emails me and goes, "Luke, I listened to this episode of your podcast, Stay Paid," I am naturally drawn in. Like, even if it turns into a sales pitch, which kind of depresses me, I'm like, oh, that's okay, you're just trying to sell me on something. But the fact that they listen, because I put so much effort into it, right? I put so much effort into it, and it's important to me, and you're showing, hey, I love, like, oh man, I love how, like, Tim, I think of this agent that I'm coaching right now that's doing well on social, and Tim posts about him and his daughter going on a date night, right? So if you saw that, you could literally say, "I love, man, how you are as a father, taking your daughter on a date night. That just is amazing. I want to be that type of father." Like, I bet you anything that would make Tim feel amazing, because he's posting about that. Tim's crushing on social. One of the ways he is turning followers into like leads is right now what's come back in spades. Maybe you've heard this, is the idea of a free home valuation. So it was really popular years ago, and then it died off. And now with everything that happened with COVID and mortgage rates and prices skyrocketing, we're seeing huge success. So we give our clients landing pages for people to get a free home value, and we put it on their print and this social and stuff like that. But what I'm teaching people to do is go on your Instagram, and you can do this without us. Just go, "Hey guys, a lot of my friends are asking me right now what their home's worth." And if you have a story like this, use it. I actually just helped Michael, one of my clients, sell his home. We were so surprised. He had gained $50,000 more in equity than he even realized. So you might be sitting on more money than you even think. If you want to know what the internet thinks your home's worth, click this link on my story. It's a free tool I give to all my clients. You can check it out. I'll follow up with you, let you know if the internet was right or wrong. But if you want to see, click this link. It's pretty amazing. And he's putting that on his story to drive them to a landing page where they can just very quickly see what the internet thinks, which is the idea of like a Zestimate, type of idea. But now he has a perfect reason to what? Follow up. Yeah. He has a perfect reason to follow up with his client and go, "Hey, here, I saw what the internet thought. Actually, I ran, just 3 local comps for you, and here's actually what your home would be worth. Hey, are you guys in your dream home? Why'd you want to know the value of your home?" And he gets to have a conversation then. And that's how you take your followers, if you've done your job of posting consistently with education, entertaining, endearing content. Now, all of a sudden, you can turn it into a hand raiser by literally just sharing something like a link on your story. Or, I saw Jimmy Mackin post something just recently. If you guys don't know Jimmy, he's an amazing follow on Instagram. But he goes, "How often do you check the price and value of your home?" And he put 3 different options there as a poll. And so now your followers can tell you how often they check the value of their home, and now and now you have a perfect reason to reach out to them. So it's a way to get hand raisers.
That's genius. That's a really good idea. Plus, like, reasonably good data too, as a real estate agent, just to know how frequently this concept is on consumers' minds, which it is, in appreciating, depreciating, or even just markets that are staying the same. This is always a number that is on people's mind because of so much of their equity and so much of their net worth being tied up in their primary residence. Another question for you. Let's say an agent's coming to you and they're thinking through this concept of, let's say I have a few $1,000s to deploy, and I'm thinking, do I allocate this towards my database? Do I allocate this towards an online lead strategy? I'm not saying one is wrong or one is right. Where would you point an agent that has that sort of thought?
Okay, so I have my answer, which people would say is biased because I sell, database marketing, but I'll give you some stats. You want listings, right? Especially with this whole NAR thing. Nobody wants to be the buyer's agent anymore, even though you should still. But people want to be listing agents. Look at the data. 65% of all listings last year, when you source where they came from referral and repeat business, which is essentially a relationship. 65%. So I'm not a gambler, but if you went to Vegas right now, would you put your money down on a place that has a chance of 65% return? Or if you look at the other percentage points, right, those 35% or so, That is covering internet sites, geographic farming, open houses. Think of all the slivers of different marketing campaigns. They're not bad. I help people with geographic farming, but I never tell them start there. I always tell them you want to start where the real money is, which is your sphere. And so I would double down on database marketing. And even if you don't have any money, you can still do database marketing because it's just relationships.
Just relationships. Yeah. And what's funny when you bring that up is I don't think I've ever spoken to a top producer when I've asked them, like, what is your lead generation sources? Start with your top lead generation source down to your bottom lead generation. I don't think I've ever spoken to like a solo top producing agent that didn't start with repeat referral or SOI. They always, they say outside of like the main big one, which is like 90% plus of their business. But then a lot of times as agents, our minds start to go to all of these other strategies that can cost us a ton and are just not nearly as effective. And then we start to get down on ourselves and think real estate isn't for us when you have people ready to buy and sell that are sitting in your phone right now, or that know people that are looking to buy and sell.
100%. I heard a stat the other day that if you look at your phone, statistically speaking, 5 to 10% of those need your service right now in real estate.
Interesting.
You just got to go find them. So however big your phone Rolodex is, 300 people, 100 people, 5 to 10% deals right now in your phone. But you got to be willing to reach out to them. And most people aren't willing to do that, which is the problem. And then a good rule of thumb from an audit perspective of your marketing and your money is 65%. If 65% of all the listings come from referral and repeat business, is 65% of your marketing budget aimed there? Is 65% of your prospecting time aimed there? Is 65% of your time and your energy aimed there? If not, that's 1-to-1. You should be really 2-to-1 on it. But that's 1-to-1. And so if you're not doing that, you're missing an opportunity.
Totally. That makes perfect sense. When you think about it, like if this is, and if listeners break down where their business is coming from and it's larger than 65% or significantly larger than that, there's just an obvious argument to be made for allocating your budget towards where you're getting your business from. In any sort of business strategy, you might test out a number of different channels. Like with Reminder Media, maybe you tested out Facebook ads, Instagram ads, TikTok ads, and then you're going to double down on whichever works best for you guys. But in real estate, we just get, and I think oftentimes because we're sold in so many different ways that this one lead generation strategy is going to put 100 qualified leads in our email just so everybody knows all of those are complete BS. It will not happen. The one way it will happen though is talking to your sphere of influence, which I agree with fully. Now when you're thinking through what agents are doing right now, what do you think are things that agents are doing wrong at this point in time? And this can be in a marketing sense. This can just be generally speaking. When you're thinking of just some errors that you see agents consistently making right now, what would be some of the top ones that come to mind?
I mean, I think one of the biggest myths I see all the time is that you don't have to ask for referrals, that if you just do good enough service and if you just make yourself available, the consumer is going to give you referrals. I would love that to be true. I just, in my years of doing this, I've never seen that. What I see to be true is those who ask or those who receive. There's a famous stat out there, 91% of people will refer you right now, but 11% of salespeople ask. And they don't ask because they don't want to be perceived as salesy, but they don't realize that, hey, if you do your job, you should ask, because the least they can say is no, but you've planted the seed and all of your drips now mean something. See, if I added you as a client, Michael, and I call you, I'm going to say, hey, I'm in real estate. I would love to help you if you need anything. I've planted that seed that I want to be your agent. And now my drips mean something. But if I never plant that seed, if I never state my intent, if I never tell you I want to earn your business, if I never set that precedent and bring you in to be part of my journey, my drips don't mean as much anymore. This is what a mistake people make, is that they don't bring the consumer into their journey. So I always tell people, like, here's what I would tell you to do. Do your clients in your sphere know your goal this year? Do they know how many families you're trying to help? Have you posted that on your Facebook? Have you shown public accountability there? I would tell you, man, you're missing out if you're not, because think about it. Some of the most engaged posts on social are weight loss post. I'm down 15 pounds. I'm going for, 5 more. And people are like, congrats, awesome. And they're praising you and they're a part of your journey. People want to be a part of your journey. So when I call and ask you, Michael, for a referral, I'm going to go, the way I set it up is after I talk to you, catch up on life. So let's say I sent you my magazine. Here's the script I would use. I would say, hey, Michael, man, was thinking about you today. Hey, brother, the reason why you popped into my mind, I just got my latest issue of American Lifestyle. It reminded me, I'm sending it to you as a gift. Hope you've been liking it. Actually, Megan and I, we made the blueberry pancake recipe last week and it was phenomenal, dude. You should make that if you get a chance. How's life been going? And I would use my touch point as a reason to catch up, talk about life, find out. I give people the FORD acronym: family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Talk about those things. And then my transition is going, hey, Michael, how's your work been going for you, man? And then I know he's going to ask me, oh, it's going good. This, how's your been going, Luke? Oh, man, the market's super interesting right now. In fact, it's so funny, man. I have a lofty goal for my business this year. I want to help 50 families find their dream home. Not to be funny, man. If I could work with 50 Michaels, it would be amazing. You might think I'm crazy, but it'd be amazing if I could work with 50. Do you know anybody you can connect me with? Maybe they're not looking to buy or sell right today, but I just love meeting new people. My business is built off relationships. Love to be a resource to them. Actually, I'd love to send them my magazine. Anybody pop into your mind? The average person knows 3 to 5 people a year. So if you just do that to 50 people, that's 250 opportunities out there for you. You're not going to get them all. Can you get 10%, 25? What would that do to your business? Average agents closing what, 11 deals at most a year? Not even that. I think 7 deals a year. So people don't realize it's not rocket science. It's just super hard. And then they overthink it because it's all about you just got to be consistent and you're dripping on people, adding value, making it authentic and real, asking them for what you need to ask them for, and being there for them for what they need you for. And that is where the magic is done. And all the top producers I interview, it's just like, I mean, this sounds terrible. It's like, yeah, you're not smarter. You just do it.
You just do it.
You're just doing it.
Well, there's this interesting quote out there that all your heroes and all like the most successful people are no smarter than right. They just are the ones that are scrappy enough and curious enough to find a strategy that works. And I would say that if every agent was to follow that strategy and do that and call everyone in their database, everyone would have a handful of leads, and you'd probably have a listing on the market in the next 2 weeks. Like that's how quickly these things can transpire too. A lot of times we get the question, what's the quickest route to getting a lead? What's the quickest route to getting like a solid qualified lead? And it's as simple as just picking up your phone and having these conversations. The other thing that I think you did really nicely as you were kind of walking us through that conversation, the tone you were taking was not you calling me truly asking for a referral. Of course, that was going to be a component of the conversation. Bingo. But you made it about, here's the magazine, this is something I've done. You're sharing a little bit about yourself, which then causes the other person to open up. And then you're asking, what's new with you? How are you doing? And it's almost an afterthought. You know how you kind of move that conversation along? It's almost like an afterthought, like how's things going with work? This is what my goal is. You didn't pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm looking to help 50 families. What can you do for me? You're making it about them in a conversation and building that relationship. And then almost kind of appended towards the end, we're getting into how they may be able to help.
Exactly. Yeah, you open them up, and then the way to open people up is to share, right? If you want to get people talking about their family, talk about yours. If you want to get people talking about their hobbies, talk about your hobbies, right? You got to open people up through vulnerability. Vulnerability creates vulnerability. And then you don't shy away from what your goal is. You come right out, and you don't just go, is there anybody you know that's looking to buy or sell real estate that you could refer me to? That will not get you much. Right. But if you say, hey, I have a goal, and I respect you, you're a valued relationship to me, you'll want to help me get that goal. Like people want to help people. It's like the weight loss thing. It's like, you want to help me. So I'm making you part of my journey in that statement. Then on top of that, I am saying, what if I ask for a referral, what's the immediate answers? No, I don't know anybody, because human reaction is no. So I immediately go, they don't have to be looking to buy or sell right now, right today, because everybody immediately goes, oh, I don't know anybody looking to buy or sell right now. So you got to go, my business is just relationships. I just want to meet new people. I just want to meet as many people as I can and be a resource to as many people as I can. And if I could meet, and this is the key, you got to praise. If I could work with 50 people like you probably would think I'd be crazy, but dude, you were an amazing client for me, or you're an amazing relationship. I would love to work with. So I'm praising how to win friends and influence people. I'm praising, complimenting, has to be sincere. So you have to do it off of your real relationship with them. And then you ask. Totally. And Barb Betts gave us a really good tactic. She's a top producer out in California. She said, stop asking for referrals, ask people to connect you. And I thought that was a really valuable nugget she gave us, was that referrals is such a sales word now. That the consumer knows it. So asking people to connect instead of refer. And I thought that was a good nugget.
I even find sometimes people are a little confused by the word referral. Like people that aren't necessarily in a sales domain, they may be kind of confused as to even what that entails and what that looks like. But a connection, and even just operating with this mindset that your goal is to connect with the most number of people, like you would never go hungry ever in real estate. If your whole goal was just centered on how do I get to know the most number of people and connect with them in an authentic way, you would never have a problem with production in real estate if that was just the lens that you operated through as you were starting your prospecting, as you were starting your day.
Spot on, brother.
Yeah. Amazing, Luke. Well, this has been so wonderful. So many gold nuggets that are coming out of this. How can people reach out to you? And also, of course, you have a fantastic podcast as well. So what are some of the best ways that they can connect with you, your podcast, and Reminder Media?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate being on this show. So I appreciate you. I mean, it's been an awesome show. So I appreciate being on. People can find me at Luke Acree. So it's Acree is my last name. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook, LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you there. If you are interested and want to see what my company does, Reminder Media, you can go to remindermedia.com or just type it in Google and you'll find us. And we would love to show you what we do. The podcast is called Stay Paid Podcast. So Stay Paid Podcast, you can listen to it wherever you listen to your podcast. But I told Michael, we got to get him on our show. We got to do a podcast. We got to get you on.
You don't have to twist too many arms for that. Yeah, being both podcasters, we're pretty easy to get on shows, aren't we?
Yeah, that's true, man.
Awesome. Well, Luke, thank you so much. Really appreciate all the insights. And I will say to everybody too, going over and following Luke on Instagram, a lot of the content that he's posting and sharing, very, very up to date tactics, things that we can all be using in real estate. Exactly what he's spoken about today. He just continues to post fantastic content. So you really walk the talk as well. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.